If you've ever been curious why an astronaut is our logo, our dream is to one day hopefully travel into space and view our world from outside itself. But now is not the time to be focused on a future beyond the stars. We've been forced to disconnect in an unprecedented way. And with the future so uncertain, we're reconnecting with our friends and our community to see how they're dealing with the now. Helmets off.
Let's do it. So sticking with the traditions of polite society, let's start with an introduction. Tell the people who you are and what it is you do.
Hello, people. I am Sarah Masterson. I am a hospitality and event management professional. I've been doing this for about 13 years now. So mostly in Pittsburgh. However, I've done a lot across the US as well.
I plan on circling back to this, but I feel like the people watching should also know you are an honoree in this year's Pittsburgh's 50 Finest.
I am, yes.
And extremely deserving, to say the least. So I don't think anybody knows the full scope of what all you have in your toolkit. So for everybody watching, can you paint them a better picture? Like, what all do you specialize in professionally?
Sure. So, well, I was going to say currently, but I guess not currently. Before everybody had to self-isolate, I was managing a group that has 17 bars, restaurants, nightclubs, coffee shops, you name it. So multiple concepts, multiple brands, multiple locations, Pittsburgh, and then also Myrtle Beach. I am furloughed there right now, obviously. So, not at the current moment. I've also managed multi-state marketing for liquor brands. I have worked on concert series, which were charitable event concert series. So they were actually for Stan Lee of Marvel Comics, and he did concert series that were on military and Air Force bases. And so I did that for a contract job just for a summer. But I've done concerts. What else? Nightlife, event management. I have a wedding planning business called Bard and Blue Events right there that literally just started up right before all of this went down. So that's been extremely interesting.
Ready and waiting in the wings.
Yeah, waiting in the wings. Yeah, it's given us time to, get the website, where we want. We did a photo shoot right before all this started to kind of get, the content ready to go there and stuff like that. I also have experience in social media, marketing, PR, you name it. If there's a party for anything, I'm involved, pretty much.
So you are a resource juggernaut.
There it is.
So let's dig in. Before we start going hard in the paint on events, most people watching know the current state of restaurants and them being limited to takeout orders only now. With you having a big background in restaurant management, do you want to take a little time to go a little deeper and let people know some of the obstacles restaurants are dealing with right now?
Sure. So aside from the obvious, which is, health and safety concerns for employees, for people who are actually ordering, for delivery services, for all of that, and then also staying within the laws, you also have to do a real cost analysis here. And the cost analysis is, does it make more sense to stay open and just for delivery services? And then how many people can you and do you employ to do that at that point in time? Or are you not going to make enough money to keep the doors open, keep the lights on? I have had conversations with multiple people, multiple states, multiple companies in this right now, and some of them opened up for delivery services right away and have now shut down. Some of them opened up and are absolutely crushing it, and some of them did not open up and now are. So there's really no, I think, rhyme or reason to whether or not all restaurants should or shouldn't do that. I think it really depends fully on your cost model, on your demand. If you had a good delivery presence prior to this, then those are the ones that are typically doing the best. So the people that were food heavy prior to this are doing better than the people who were more bar heavy prior to this, right? Because you don't think of that in your head. And then it's which delivery services do you use, right? Because the other thing is, and a lot of these services have waived some of their fees, but Uber Eats, for instance, prior to coronavirus and COVID-19 or whatever term you want to use for it right now became a thing, they were taking 30%. So the restaurant only made, not or what 670. Geez, whew, I need to drink a little more caffeine today. 70% of those sales were made, but then you also have, your labor, your everything else that was worked into that. So now a lot of those fees have been waived, but some of those services still cost, a pretty penny. And I think a lot of people don't realize too that it's other workers. It's not the restaurant workers that are doing these delivery services. It's typical Uber Eats drivers. It's stuff like that. So if from somebody from a restaurant standpoint, if you can order local and actually just call up the store and order from the store directly, rather than getting on your phone or your tablet or whatever and ordering Uber Eats or Grubhub or DoorDash or any of those options, you're doing the restaurant a bigger favor if they have that as an option. Some don't. Some can't, hire delivery drivers and the like. But going local and going for non-delivery service platforms are going to be your best bet to boost the local economy right now. Don't be doing Domino's and Chick-fil-A and McDonald's and everything else. They're going to survive this. It's your mom and pops, down the road that is going to really be riding the struggle bus here and trying to figure out if they can keep the lights on or not during all of this.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to probably reconsider the way that they're ordering just from hearing that little tidbit. Going into events now, I guess this is where we're going to kind of this is like where I've wanted to focus with you specifically. As far as business models are concerned, events right now are basically enemy number one. They're obviously not the cause of all this, but in general, their direct goal is to bring crowds of people together into a space. Right. So between like social distancing, quarantine, stay-at-home orders, in-person events are pretty much impossible at the moment. That being said, is there a particular event-dependent industry you're more concerned about over another as it pertains to being able to recover?
That's a tough one. I would say, honestly, no. I don't think that there's one that's going to recover less than another, because if you really think about it, someone who was already going to get married is still going to get married. Now, will they do that this year? No, probably not. Or maybe they'll do it in September or October instead of now, or December, or whatever. Corporations are still going to have conferences and conventions and stuff like that. Someone who's doing a birthday party at a restaurant is still going to do a birthday party at a restaurant, further down the line. All of it is affected heavily right now. I would say that I think the last ones that will pick up on the uptick once this is all over is the corporations and conferences and stuff like that, because everything's so uncertain right now that people aren't booking travel. So with the corporations and stuff, in that sector there, that's going to take longer to get up than the weddings, which are going to happen right after this ends, and the people going out for their birthday parties and people just going out in general. That's going to pick up much sooner than I think the people who focus heavily on corporate events, which unfortunately is going to be mostly bars and restaurants that feel that.
Right. Are you aware of any events able to still be conducted right now utilizing social distancing, etc.?
No. Virtual events I've been seeing happening a lot. A lot of my friends who are DJs have been doing DJ sets, and that's been really cool to see people jumping on that. Virtual yoga, things of that nature are all happening right now, but the risk isn't, the juice isn't worth the squeeze to try and do an event right now and social distance at said event. It's
right. Yeah, fair enough. I don't know if you saw this or not. I'm obviously pretty big into sports. Well, I guess not everybody watching knows that, but I'm pretty big into sports. A national sports poll just came out a few days ago from Seton Hall University that I'd like to get your take on. So it was 762 Americans were polled, and 72% said that they would not attend games until there's a vaccine. 12% said that they would only attend if social distancing measures were in place. And then only 13% said that they would feel safe returning to games like they did before the pandemic. Like, not to put you on the spot for some sort of a hot take here, but having had your finger on the pulse professionally for over a decade, do you think these numbers reflect beyond sports and are generally representative of events in general?
Little column A. So without knowing the background, I would want to know who specifically was polled. What was the demographic of the people that were polled in this, right? I think the older.
I think it was a general Twitter poll, like just kind of out to the world or
Mhm,
out to the US.
sure. So I would say, that's going to vary too. And again, I think a lot of this is going to go away with time, right? There's no vaccine for the flu. And I'm not that I'm comparing the coronavirus to the flu, right? I know that that's not the case. There's a lot of unknowns here. Let me put that out there. But, there's no cure for the flu, but people still go out during flu season. There's no cure for the common cold, and people still go out during cold season. So I think eventually this is all going to dwindle off. I think so let's just say, if April 30th is the day right now, it's not going to be May 1 that people just flood into places. It's not going to happen. You're going to start to see, my best guess, normal numbers at things and normal attendance and normal sales and that kind of stuff at events, sporting events, concerts, you name it. My best guess is July, August, September. It's going to take time. And that's if that April 30th date is, the end date. We don't know that right now. I know Denver's just got extended. I have a feeling Pittsburgh's is going to get extended. I'm not thrilled about it, but I have a strong feeling. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think that April 30th is the end all, which is hurting events even more so on that front, right? And I know that the government
Absolutely.
gave us dates, but it's making things very difficult on my end. Like, I have a lot of clients that are trying to reschedule, but they don't know when they can. And, for instance, I had one client who had a May 4th event. And she called me and she was like, am I still going to be able to do this? And I said, honestly, I would reschedule it. Even if, April 30th date is done, I would reschedule it, because who knows if we're going to be able to get the food in on time from the delivery trucks to reopen to have the regular menu. Is the booze there? Yeah, that's not going bad, right? You're good on that front. Are your people all going to come and attend the way that you think they're going to? Probably not. Are we going to be able to get staff that quickly? Maybe. Everybody's furloughed right now. Who knows? That's, a question mark. So I think a lot of people think that April 30th ends and May 1, everybody's going to hit the bars, the nightclubs, the restaurants, and everything's going to go. No, it's going to be a good 2 to 3 weeks after that. And that's if that April 30th date stays. I don't think anybody's making any plans until we get closer to that date to make sure of it. So how do you plan an event or reschedule an event during this with so many unknowns? It's a really, really difficult thing to do. And it's, honestly, I wish I had better words for it. I don't. It's just a very difficult thing right now that I don't think anybody has a good pulse on, myself included. So I think we all just have to kind of collectively wait it out and see and be as patient as we can and just pay attention to what's going on, and, know that in the background that there are other things that are going to have to happen for everybody to get back up off the ground and running. It's not just, this is over, here we are.
Right. Well, so interesting you kind of laid all of this out, because I kind of had a little bit of a hypothetical built. I'm still going to plow forward with it in general, but you've covered it actually pretty accurately already in just what you've just answered. But say we know that just in what you've just said, event schedules are in shambles, with nothing definitive to signify how far into the future event planners need to look as like their new starting point.
Mhm.
So imagine that starting tomorrow, there's a vaccine, the spread of the coronavirus drops to 0% chance. This is almost certainly a loaded question, which you've kind of tackled already.
Okay.
But what are the challenges that event planners are facing for rescheduling all of these postponed events?
Sure. So aside from what I already went through, there's a lot that goes into an event. Um, so let's take for an example an event that you and I actually did together with Some Good Print. We did an event at Tenpenny downtown in Pittsburgh. Some Good Print did all of the print work. They actually did all of the windows to make the entire inside of Tenpenny appear as if you were inside of Toronto. It was an event for tourism Toronto.
And a
So,
floor decal.
and a floor, sorry, yes, and a floor decal to look like you were standing above the CN Tower, which was super cool. We had a stage that went over it. You looked down, and it seriously gave me vertigo standing on that thing, even knowing I was only about a foot off the ground. It still really appeared like we were there. You guys crushed it. So shout out to Some Good Print for that. But for instance, you have your print vendor there. Then you have Tenpenny as the caterer and the chef. But not only that, then they have their food purveyors. So who are their food purveyors that are bringing them in all of their services that they have to order? Just like you and I have to go to Giant Eagle, Tenpenny has to go somewhere to get their food as well. Again, booze is there. We're not worried about that portion. Staffing. How many staff do they still have after this is over versus before? And are they hiring the same staff back, or are new people coming in? What does that look like? You don't know who you're going to lose, who you're going to keep during this 30 days. Me being at a corporate level of my company, I'm furloughed. I know I have a job to come back to. Servers, bartenders, that kind of stuff, they can bounce around. They may or may not want to come back. They may want to go somewhere else. They may leave the industry altogether over this 30 days. Maybe they're filling out resumes and they're going to work in a, office after this. And they're like, I'm done with food work. You don't know what's going to happen during that time. And then, for that same event, we also had florists. Well, flowers are probably okay, but have they been in the shops? When are all of their workers coming back? They have that same thing. The food purveyors have that same thing. Some Good Print even would have that same thing. Are you guys furloughed right now? Probably not, but that's a possibility with anything that you do. We also had circus performers at that. The circus performers right now, I follow all of them on Instagram. In fact, Pittsburgh Circus, they're fantastic if you need them for event, at PGH Circus, super simple. Fire breathers, fire dancers, contortionists, stilt walkers, jugglers, you name it, they can do it all. So think about them. They're not in practicing all of their crafts right now with each other as they normally would be. They're still doing their solo practice, but are they now out of practice for something like that where they need a little bit of time to get back in and do their acts? So all of those things come in to make one event a success. And if all of your vendors aren't prepared, then you aren't prepared as an event planner. And as an event planner, if the event fails, that's not on your vendor. That's not on the caterer. That's not on the venue. It's on you, because your name is on it. You pulled all those people in together, and you're the one that's managing all of the steps of that process. So if something breaks down in there, that's on you. So all of the event planners now are looking at dates and, keeping an active communication with their vendors, with their venues, with their everything else. I started Barred and Blue Events, like I said, with my two partners right before this happened. We had about 16 different venues that we could book events at currently, and we're working to build that portfolio. Well, some of these bars and restaurant groups and some of these other places, whatever these venues aren't necessarily going to reopen everything after this is over. I know at least 3 restaurant groups that I've talked to in Pittsburgh and outside of Pittsburgh that are only going to reopen 30 to 40% of their current brands. So even as an event planner, do you have that venue as an option even after you come out of all of this? You don't know. So there's so much unknown there that you're responsible for. Me personally, having done this for 13 years, I'd rather take the hit financially, take the step back, and wait until everything is ready to go with everybody to make sure that it doesn't get hurt, because if your name's on it, that damages your reputation more than anything else at the end of this. So me personally, that's what I'm doing. I know a lot of other event planners doing the same thing, but I know some are, moving forward and pushing forward. And if they have to reschedule, they have to reschedule. I'd rather not do that to a client where I'm like, oh, you were supposed to have your event in April, and now we planned it for May. Oop, getting pushed back again. Let's look at July now. I don't want to do that. So I'm trying to just take a step back with everything right now with all of my clients and just be transparent that, hey, just like you have no idea what's going on, neither do I. Let's wait it out as long as we possibly can and figure this thing out after it comes.
And just by pointing all of that out, it actually shows how many different kind of industries receive a revenue stream via events that probably people aren't really taking into consideration whenever they think about events. But as we mentioned earlier, you're an honoree for the Pittsburgh's 50 Finest this year, which benefits the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation.
Yep.
Do you have any insights on how the lack of events is impacting charity fundraising?
Ooh, huge. So not just with 50 Finest. I mean, again, for me personally, just like I took a step back with the events, I'm not taking a step back fully with 50 Finest, obviously. It's still very important, just to take a minute and talk about that. You look at coronavirus, and it's a virus where it affects people's breathing. It affects their lung function, it affects their lung capacity. They feel like they're drowning. That's what a person with cystic fibrosis feels all the time, right? So the thing that we're all so scared of right now is what someone with cystic fibrosis lives with every single day. And they're some of the people that are going to be affected most by this. It's the elderly, it's the immune compromised, it's people with health issues. Those are the people that are in the most danger right now. So I'm seeing a lot of people saying, well, I'm fine, I'm not going to infect anybody. Well, you don't know who you're going to come in contact with, who comes in contact with another person, who comes in contact with another person. And that's literally what these people live with every single day. So it is still so important. So when I say I'm taking a step back, I mean, I'm taking steps now to I'm not fundraising and pushing my web campaign right now, right? Some people still are. Me, with my network being mostly event professionals and restaurant professionals and stuff like that, my whole network blew up. I'm not pushing that on my platforms right now to get people to donate to my website, because I know that they're struggling, and I know that that's just going to annoy them and make them not think about this. So I'm going to wait until after this is all over, and I'm going to plan a million crazy events to raise these funds. And then I'm going to start pushing the website again and everything else. I mean, if you want to go on there and you want to donate and you have the funds to right now, please, by all means, do. I will get the link to you. Eli, it's 50finest.org/Sarah Masterson, I believe, but I will confirm that.
We'll make sure to add that in.
Yeah. So if you do have the funds and you want to donate, then by all means go ahead. But so it is not just that foundation that's affected. There's the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society doing the Man and Woman of the Year. There's, countless. St. Baldrick's does the head shaving event every year for children's cancer research. And they can't do that right now. My friend Stephanie she just started a young adult cancer survivor group right before this, and just got her own LLC. And now they're doing all their meetings virtually. So this is literally affecting everybody with fundraising. And some of these things are so important. Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, to go back to that, there's a term for it that, excuse me, I don't know or recall off the top of my brain. But the government doesn't give any money to cystic fibrosis research because it doesn't fall under the umbrella of having enough cases. There's still so many cases. This affects so many people so hard, but all of their funding is done from private sector. There is no government funding for this whatsoever. You look at cancer research, you look at, that kind of stuff. There is some, right? There's some government funding for research for AIDS, for cancer, for things like that affect all of these people, but there are not funds for cystic fibrosis. So in this private sector where they don't get any outside funding and all of it is funded through programs like the 50 Finest, and they do these nationally. I have a girlfriend in Michigan that did a bachelorette auction for cystic fibrosis, and she raised, I think, $6,000. All of it comes from that. They don't do advertising because they spend their money on these programs. So you look at, someone in the private sector, they just got a drug last year through their private sector funding, or maybe it was 2 years ago, called Trikafta. And it works on 80%, I believe. Again, I may not have these numbers all completely accurate, on 80% of patients with cystic fibrosis, but there is a portion of patients that it still won't work on. And so they're making strides through this private sector, but it's not enough. And all of this is stopping now. A lot of my events in my 13 years have been just charitable events. And, I do them as much pro bono as I possibly can. If I'm looking at a venue, their venue fee is lower than if you're a corporation coming in. If I'm looking at their food, I'm probably going to give them a 10% discount on their catering order because they're a nonprofit, because they're trying to do something. But no one can do that right now. No events can happen for this. So it's affecting all of that. That's how a lot of people get it. And again, with nobody having incomes right now, well, not nobody, but nobody in my network having income right now other than unemployment, and some people still not even having gotten theirs. How do you ask people to donate right now when they're worried about putting food on their table? Can't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the most unfortunate things in all of this is to already know that there were so many people suffering from things prior to, and then you just have added almost everybody else onto the list with their own problems now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're still trying to not forget the people that we were already trying to get attention to, but then we're also trying to keep our own heads above water. And it's just it's an interesting situation for sure that we find ourselves in. It's been a crazy couple of weeks, to say the least, and I'm sure you can agree with that.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, here we are telecommunicating and using technology like this to maintain our relationships and keep those intact. The heightened level of danger just has people wearing all of their hats at the same time right now. You and I are very similar in having concerns for our siblings, our parents, our friends, and of course being uncles in all of this. So how are you while you're trying to balance all of that, how are you doing as a human right now?
As a human, so I'm not going to lie to you, the first week and a half of this was rough. I was not okay. I was mentally a train wreck. I drank a whole lot. My tequila supply went down quite significantly, as did the wine. And about a week and a half in, I was like, you know what, Sarah, get over yourself. Everyone else is going through this too. It's not just you. So I did. And I started working out 2, sometimes 3 times a day. I started doing projects around my house. I cleaned everything top to bottom. And then I ran out of cleaning and arts and crafts projects. And then I was like, okay, well, what do I do now? And, so this has been going on, 4 weeks now, I think, for me at this point that I've been isolated. And for me in those 4 weeks now, I've just kind of given myself free range to wherever I am mentally that day, just be. If that means that I am pouring a glass of wine at 3 p.m., then I'm pouring a glass of wine at 3 p.m. because what else am I going to do? If that means that I'm working out for 5 hours and I'm meal prepping for the week, then that's what I'm doing. If that means that I am writing down something for, you know, a blog post, or working on a website, or working on event plans for the hope of future dates, then that's what I'm doing. I'm just in a headspace of wherever I feel that day, that's where I'm going to be. And I'm not limiting myself and stopping myself or making myself feel guilty. I keep seeing a meme going around that's like, if you don't come out of this with a hobby or something, you know, something that you did to better yourself, then you never didn't have the time, you were just lazy. And I don't subscribe to that at all, because I think that we're all going through a traumatic experience right now. It's a loss of freedom, it's fear, it's loss of, you know, communication. You know, like you said, we're talking this way. My parents are terrible at this. Well, my dad isn't. My mom's terrible at this stuff. I try to get her on a Zoom call, it'd be hours. It'd be hours for her to figure this out. So I'm not seeing my family. Not going outside as much. And when I am going outside, I'm being cautious, you know, more so than what you normally are as a woman outside. So it's, you know, I subscribe to whatever you need to do that day, and whatever you're feeling that day, just feel it and just do it and just be it. So I don't subscribe to the hobby thing. Do I have a couple? Have I done some things to better myself? Yeah. My squats are really on point right now. I'm going to come out with a great booty. I'm convinced of it. But I might not come out of this with anything else. All right. You know, I've always wanted to take a month off. I'm going crazy taking a month off, but doing little bits here and there and just checking in with myself and where I am and how I feel is working.
I actually think that that's a pretty good way, at least the way that you stated it is a good way to put it. I've definitely been one of the type of people who've been like, if you are bored and you don't really have anything else to be worried about right now, like, yeah, you probably should, like, think all the things that you suck at, pick one and get good at it. Like, it kind of sucks to learn things because it's not fun at first, but whenever you do get good at it, all of a sudden you find yourself enjoying it. So, like, find a new way to find a new stream to have fun is there's so much that's out of our control in all this. I'm really urging people to, like, find a way, if you, like, beyond all the worry that we all have to have, find a way to still have fun somehow.
Yeah.
So kind of getting out of like the heavy woods and, like, you know, all the feelings. Everyone's getting impacted negatively by this on a number of different levels, and but a lot of people are really rising to the occasion as well. Is there anyone that you want to shout out or send a little love to on either end of that spectrum?
Sure. I'm not going to put anybody down. So we're not going to shout anybody out negatively on that. But I will lift some people up right now. So I will start with David Allen Clothing. If you're unfamiliar with David Allen, he does custom suits, custom blazers. I mean, you name it. Great friend of mine for years and years and years now. We used to work at Diesel back in like 2006 together. So we go back. He created masks for workers and for people going out and everything else. And that's, you know, totally not what he does. He's suits, but he created masks. And with a portion of the proceeds of the masks that he's getting, he's donating to hospitals all over the US that need them. So I'll give him a shout out. I will give out the 50 Finest, this Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. I'm going to give them a shout out. They've taken all of our meetings virtual. They are still pushing everything they can. We have our Finest University where we learn more. So I probably would have a lot better fact checking on everything that I talked about earlier after this Thursday, but they're doing a really good job of that. And some of the members in my class are doing virtual yoga and virtual animal shelter events and all kinds of stuff. So, you know, they're getting really creative. One of the guys in my class is doing push-ups every day, and everybody pays him to do push-ups, and he does push-ups online. I'm not that strong, so get it, Tyler. I will give shout outs to multiple bars and restaurants that are doing charitable work right now and donating all of their food that would have gone to waste to different charitable organizations, like the Amped group did Let Us Turn Up the Beat Sustainability. They donated, I think it was something like 3,000 meals to people that were in need of meals. And then the Let Us Turn Up the Beat Sustainability also did formula and diapers and all of that to a whole bunch of people. And they did it out of a South Hills location. So, you know, things like that. So many people are doing so many things right now that really are stepping up and stepping out. And it's, you know, amazing to see the people that are doing the things that they're doing in a time. I read a quote from Mr. Rogers from back in the day that was like, anytime you see something, you know, a big life event, look for the helpers. And that's been helping me keep really sane, because I've, as much helpers as I've seen a lot of, you know, people putting some really negative stuff out there into the universe. And of course you are, you know, you're traumatized and you're having a hard time, but negativity breeds more negativity. So I think if you focus on the helpers, just like Mr. Rogers said, that really, really helps. So looking at 412 Food Rescue, looking at Let Us Turn Up the Beat Sustainability, looking at people like David Allen, looking at I have friends that just sewed masks or sewed buttons on masks just by themselves and shot them out there to people. So that's all really amazing to me. And I'm sure I forgot a lot of people that are doing great things, but here we are.
Yeah, but you were able to get a name drop for Mr. Rogers in there, so that's pretty incredible. So, lastly, and this would probably go great for you since you have a new business to plug, really. Tell people where they can reach you, your website, social media, etc.
Sure. So website is borrowed N, the letter N, blue events.com. I am on social media on Instagram as SDOT Masterson. That's S.Masterson. And Masterson is spelled like it sounds, master and then son, not like in the sky, but if you had a kid. And then my 50 Finest website, if you know, have the funds and can donate. Hold on one second. I'm pulling up to make sure I got the accuracy here. Yep, it is finest.cff.org/Sarah with an H Masterson.
Right on. And then to close this all out, ultimately this is meant to be an additional way people can connect while we're all isolated from each other. So before we wrap, is there anything you want to ask the people watching?
I want to ask the people watching to be nice to each other, to look for the helpers. And then also, if you want to drop in the comments what you're doing to stay sane during this, because I think that will help everybody. Are you gardening? Did you find a new cool TV show? Are you playing house party? Are you doing Zoom happy hours with your friends? What is it? Did you find a new book? Let me know. I'm running out of projects. Thanks.
I think that will definitely help everybody, because I have my own list, but let's say I'm knocking out things on this list pretty quickly. So everybody hit the comments, be nice to each other, and let us know what you are doing to stay sane. And Sarah, thank you for taking the time, even though I know we have a lot of it.
Eli, I appreciate you thinking of me and having me on here and just being awesome as always.
Well, you're welcome. All right.
It's tough being so cool.
Nobody says that about me. All right. Well, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.